This lesson is on solving absolute value equations. When we have an absolute value equation, it's important to understand what an absolute value actually does, or what it actually is. The absolute value of something is its distance from zero on the number line, and we know that distance is always positive. So in essence, absolute value makes whatever's inside the bracket positive. For instance, if I were to solve this equation, I would set what's inside the absolute value equal to both 3 and to negative 3. Now, why would I do that? Because then if I put a 3 right here, the absolute value of 3 is 3. If I plug a negative 3 in for x and take the absolute value, that makes it positive, and so again, the solution is true. So my solutions here would be negative 3 and positive 3. Looking at my second, notice I have the absolute value of something equals negative 3. Well, we just got done saying that the absolute value always makes things positive. So can I have an absolute value equal to a negative? No, I can't. This would be no solution. There are no values that I could plug in that would come out of the absolute value as a negative 3. So let's try some questions. When I'm solving an absolute value equation, what I'm going to do is set first equal to the positive value. So notice I just have one absolute value. I'm first going to set what's inside the absolute value equal to positive 3, and then set that same value equal to negative 3. So I'm having the positive and negative. Solving gives me 4x equals negative 2, so x equals negative 1/2. Solving here gives me 4x equals negative 8, so x equals negative 2. Now notice it does say solve and graph, so when I'm graphing an equation rather than an inequality, I'm just going to have a point at negative 1/2 and a point at negative 2. So I'm not going to graph in this case just to make the video shorter, but when we do the next questions, when we have the inequalities, I will graph because it will make more sense why we would need to. So again, before I set all of this equal to 6 and to negative 6, whenever I have an absolute value, the first thing I want to do is try to get all of this by itself. So I'm going to start by adding 2 to each side. And then I'm going to divide by 2. So I have the absolute value of x minus 8 equals 4. From here, I will set x minus 8 equal to 4 and x minus 8 equal to negative 4 to find my two solutions. Here I would add 8 to get x is 12, and here I would add 8 to get x is 4. So my two solutions would be 4 and 12. Again, graphing those, I would just have a point at 4 and 12. 4 and 12. Similar to the last, before I set things equal to negative 6 or 6, I'm not going to freak out about the fact that this is a negative quite yet, because I still have all of this other stuff to deal with. I will add the 2 to each side, which leaves me with negative 4, and I will divide by 2 to get the absolute value equals negative 2. Now from here, I say, nope, this is not going to work because the absolute value of something can't be a negative 2. So even though this was negative at the beginning, you still have to isolate the absolute value before you can say no solution. Again, for this one, I've got x minus 4 over 9 equals 2, and x minus 4 over 9 equals negative 2, solving each one the same way. Multiply by 9 first, and then add 4. Multiply by 9 first, and then add 4. So there are my two solutions. Now this one is a little bit trickier because notice we have two different absolute values. We're still going to sort of solve it the same way though. I'm going to set 3x minus 1 equal to x plus 5, and then I'm going to set 3x minus 1 equal to negative parenthesis x plus 5. So I'm still going to negate the whole other side. This one's fairly straightforward. I'm going to subtract x from each side. I'm going to add 1 to each side, and then divide by 2. over here, I do need to distribute the negative. That's why I put it in parentheses when I plugged it in. So this is actually 3x minus 1 equals negative x minus 5. So I'm going to add x to each side, and then add 1 to each side, and then divide by 4. So I get positive 3 and positive 1. Go ahead and try this one on your own, and then press play to check your work. In this case, again, I've got a negative over here, but I'm not going to worry about it until the absolute value is isolated. So I'm going to take each side times negative 2, and I'm going to do that because negative 1/2 times negative 2, those negative 2's cancel, and I end up with just x plus 3 on the right as the absolute value. Negative 2 times negative 6 is positive 12, and now I can see that I will actually be able to solve this question because the absolute value is equal to a positive. So x plus 3 equals 12, and x plus 3 equals negative 12. So the absolute value equals positive, and then also the negative. So by subtracting 3, I get x equals 9, and by subtracting 3, I get x equals negative 15.